The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Live from Boston, Massachusetts, this is Unscheduled with Skymo and The Dave. As usual, Dave, I want to thank our military for securing this nation and doing their duty to the American people, and God bless them and God bless their families. And, you know, I appreciate each and every one of them, Dave, and God bless them.
That's right. They're doing a great job out there, and it's tough being away from home,
Tough
especially when you're young and
yeah.
you got a family back in the States or whatever, and you're traveling all over the world serving this great country that we live in.
Absolutely, and you know, Dave, I know for myself now, you never know, everything we do becomes so much routine now. I was a peacetime soldier, and I went in active duty January 76. But, you know, when I look back on it, you know, it just seems to be a lot more clearer now than it was then, because, you know, being young, you take things for granted, and you don't count the cost of anything you do. And, but, you know, just during training, that's all I did every day, train, 105 howitzer, towed howitzers, and all we did was train and rifle range and machine gun range and you know, mortars and claymore mines. I was involved in a lot of different things, and I got run over with a armored personnel carrier one time in a Jeep. It was a close call, and just about got blew up one time and cut the limbs out of the trees around our truck. Well, me and my buddy was under the truck, and we was staggered batteries. The whole company was out on fire mission. One of the gun batteries was shooting over top of us, and they were shooting a time fuse, and they cut one short, and it went off right over top of us, and nobody got hurt. But now, just thank God, me and my section chief, we was up under the deuce and a half. We was having trouble with it. We was up under it, but brother, I tell you what, everything you do is dangerous, Dave, and there's so many, I forget what the number is, 200 or 300 military personnel get killed a year just in training accidents. So, you know, it's bad enough having to go into a combat zone and all these different theaters that we have around the world now, but, you know, you can lose your life just training, and everything you do is dangerous, Dave, and so God bless them. I appreciate every one of them. And let's see here, we got a question here, or a comment. Let me get my glasses on. What's that say?
Stacy Goodson says Maxine Waters is God.
Stacy Goodson says Maxine Waters is God. Well, she just needs to watch my video, don't she, Dave? You know, I put that challenge out, that Maxine...
How could she be God if she's such a low IQ person?
Yeah, you know, yeah, I don't get it, you know. So, God bless you, honey. We'll pray for you, and Jesus loves you. That's all I can say. Hey, Dave, let's start with this right here.
I think she's the same one that said we landed on Mars already, wasn't it?
Yeah. She said Mars.
Yeah, they were talking about the moon landing, and she confused it with Mars, I think.
Yeah.
Or was that Sheila Jackson Lee? I get the two mixed up.
They're
both real high IQ individuals.
Yeah, they ain't no different. Before I forget, folks, if you feel like you want to help somebody out, go to Facebook and go to Christopher Lee Foundation. That's the foundation me and my family started Christopher Lee, CHRISTIFER. Christopher Lee Foundation. It's a foundation of 501c3. All your donations are tax deductible, and 100% of your donations goes to the cause for kids with cancer, research, to Shriners, to local families here in Carlisle or the surrounding area. The families of kids have cancer. We do what we can to help them out. And you go on that Facebook page, you'll see my son. He's on there that passed away, and that's why we started this. And but if you want to do something, and you got it just makes you feel good, Dave, when you help somebody out, when you do things. And but go to Christopher Lee Foundation on Facebook and hit the donate button, and then make a donation. No donation's too small. And like I said, we're a registered 501c3, and it is tax deductible. Dave, I want to start with this right here. And Obama would have never done this. And President Trump brought in about 100 evangelical leaders for a state-like dinner. And he says this is spiritual warfare. And I believe it is. One preacher I watched the other day, what's going on, the way they're coming against President Trump, he called it witchcraft. And that's absolutely what I think it is. And I'm so glad to see this day because, and I made the statement the other day, that President Trump, he stood up for the church. Obama never did stand up for the church like President Trump has. And he has really stuck his neck out for the church and the spiritual leaders in this country. And I think that we need to stand up for him, Dave, get behind him with prayer and our support and whatever we can do, Dave. But this was very encouraging, and that's something that President Obama would never have done. And the Democrats have done nothing but sow division and hatred throughout this country, and especially hatred for police officers, hatred for Christianity, hatred against white people, and they have started and trying their best to start a Black Panther style race riots is what I think the Democrat/Communist Party is trying to do. And
I'm worried about Antifa, though. I think Antifa is a really bad organization, and you see that it's going wild on college campuses. It's gone crazy. And Antifa, I think, is a danger. They are dangerous because
absolutely
they do not want any conservative speaking on campus of any kind. It doesn't matter what they say. They won't even give them a chance to be heard. They drive them out.
Right.
So they're really the ones who are anarchists themselves. They're the ones that's bringing trouble. Just let everybody needs to speak.
Well, it's right out of the Communist Manifesto to accuse your enemy of doing exactly what you're doing, and that's what they're doing. They're saying they're doing what they're coming against hate, and they're coming against the Nazis and all this, when they're the ones that is causing the violence. They're the ones that's bringing the violence to our streets. They go to the pro-life. They're starting to go now to pro-life demonstrations. They've been going to pro-Trump rallies and things like that, causing trouble. And I tell you what, I seen the other day, there was a Blue Lives Matter rally. I can't remember exactly where it's at. Well, here come Antifa. Well, a few of them got the snot beat out of them by the cops. And but we need to bring the National Guard out on these people. You know what I mean? Because normally there's not enough police officers to handle them. Okay, but these people, you know, the Bible says violence begets violence. And that is a action and a reaction situation, Dave. That is somebody, it's simple. What that is somebody attacks you and you defend yourself with the same force or enough force to save your own life, whatever it takes, you know. That's what that Bible scripture means. Violence begets violence. And, you know, we're two different types of people, Dave. These communist liberals, these Antifa types, and the Democrat Party, Maxine Waters, she's out there inciting violence. Why isn't she arrested? She ought to be censored, and she ought to be arrested for inciting riots. Is what ought to happen to her. But that goes to show you, though, Dave, we are totally two different kind of people. Us conservatives, we're trying to be peaceful people. We're trying to be law-abiding people. We're trying to get our voice out there without violence. We're trying to do things in a legal, lawful way. You know, I don't go along with buying permits to protest and all this stuff. Okay. However, that's what we do because that's what the law says to do. And but them, they just show up. You know, they don't have permits to show up and do what they do, and they outnumber the cops in so many places. But now, I tell you what, Dave, it's just like a chained dog. You know, a kid walks by that dog so many times, teasing that dog. And one day that dog breaks his chain and mauls that kid. And that's how us conservatives are, Dave. They're going to keep it up. They're going to keep it up. And they're going to keep it up. And, brother, we're going to break our chain. And it's not, we're going to maul them. I mean, you know, it's just that simple. How far they're going to push us. They think that they can just push us right over the edge. But, Dave, sooner or later, if the law enforcement don't bring in a National Guard, all right, to beat these people down, and if that's what it takes, and to keep them in their place to where they just fade away, sooner or later this thing's going to get really, really nasty. And when it does, it's not going to be good for them, David, because number one, there's more of us, and number two, I'm sure we're better armed than they are. Now, I'm not calling for an armed showdown with them, but I mean, you know, when you go to hurting people's children, and when you go to tearing up people's property, burning cars, busting windows out of these stores, I can tell you right now, Dave, if that crap comes to my hometown, I'll do everything I can to stop that. And for the most part, in a lot of these cities, these liberal cities, you notice in Baltimore and places like that, when the blacks have rioted, these Black Lives Matter and stuff, they burned the cities, what did cops do? They had orders to stand down, you know, and they burned the cities, and they hurt people, and they destroyed property, you know. And I'm going to do everything I can to keep that from happening in my own community. And thank God it hasn't got here yet, Dave. There's a lot of things that we see in these big cities that we don't even see in Dayton and Cincinnati and this surrounding area, you know. But you see on TV these other places that have to deal with this crap. But I'm telling you, you keep poking the bear, and you're going to have more than what you can handle.
What it is, though, I think we live in two different countries. You got conservatives on one side and these liberals on the other side, with the news media on their side, and every story they report, they put a slant on it. They slant the news. You don't get just the news, you get their opinion half the time, and their opinion is pro-liberal, pro-democrat.
It's propaganda, Dave.
And because of that, these kids feel like they have the right to do what they want, and they don't. Half of this country doesn't believe like they do, and it's going to come to I hate to say it, but I think it's going to come to war one of these days,
right?
Where the police won't stop them. Have you ever noticed that the police just watch?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
What? They're supposed to stop violence.
right. They're not even obeying the law.
No, they just watch and try to keep them separated.
Right.
But other than that, they start burning cars, breaking glass in stores, windows. They just more or less let them go.
Right. Well, they've been cracking people in the head with these bicycle locks. One of them was a college professor. He bought 14 bicycle locks, the ones on the chains, and he whacked some guy at one of these rallies. And I don't think they were even prosecuted. They knew who it was, and I think the lack of evidence or something, they dropped charges.
They got the guy on video, probably.
And well, there is a video. Yeah, there is a video, but he had a mask on and all that. But now, hey, them people are not going to run my life, Dave. I'm not going to live in fear because of these people. I'm just not going to do it, And so people, I'll tell you what, arm up. And I've said that a million times, Dave. I don't understand why there's gun-free zones. I don't understand why your average citizens don't carry guns. That's just the world we live in, Dave. That's just what we live in today. I'm a big advocate of firearms and self-defense. And that's just like what happened down here in Jacksonville over a stupid video game. The 2 people shot, and I think it was 10 wounded. 2 dead and 10 wounded. This kid lost the Madden football game, the video game, which he used to be a champion. He was a champion. Last year before last, he won that championship. He got put out during this. I don't know if this is qualifications for the championship or exactly what this was, but if you lost, you was out. So the kid lost his game and he got put out and he left and he come back with 2 handguns and went in there and just started shooting away. Now, they said that they normally, I've heard this so many times it makes me sick, they normally have security there. But that particular day, they had no security. And it was a stupid gun-free zone. A gun-free zone. It don't make no sense, Dave. It just don't. These things that the left is doing and these laws they're implementing, and like Rush said, everywhere that Democrats go, there's misery. And it's the same here. If somebody, one person, would have had a firearm in there to neutralize this guy, he might have shot 1 or 2 people, but he would have been quickly neutralized. It just boggles my mind, Dave, the way the mindset of some people it's irrational.
But, it's hard to stop a crazy person, though. Look what he did after he shot a few people. Well, he killed 2.
Yeah.
And then he shot up another 10 or 15. But then he commits suicide.
Yeah.
So that proves right there the guy's definitely nuts. Well, he's nuts to go out and start shooting anyway. But people are going to have to realize that if you don't stop these, you ain't got time to call the cops.
No.
And you say, well, there's some guy, you call 911 and there's some guy shooting in here. By the time the cops get there, he's probably killed 10 people.
All they do is talk to witnesses and zip up body bags.
And they'll ask you, and the 911 operator will ask you, do you know what kind of gun it is? Do you know how tall he is? Do you ask all these stupid questions?
Is he black, white?
But, it does no good. You have to be there with a weapon.
Right.
If you're not carrying a weapon on you, you're going to get shot.
Well, and that's just like the old saying goes, is the only thing stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And over 2 million times a year, something like that.
Unless you're really good with a crossbow or something.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of hard to conceal. But now, I want to talk about this. I want to get to this. I haven't talked about this, but it's still a relevant subject. And this Brennan, people are still harping over President Trump revoking his security clearance, Dave. And I don't understand how that man Obama had to pull some strings. Well, not really, because look at the FBI and the CIA and the Justice Department, how crooked they are today. They didn't have no problem giving Brennan under Obama. They never had no problem giving him a security clearance. A devout Muslim. He was a socialist, a communist back in the 80s and voted for somebody running on the Communist Party. The man shouldn't even been allowed to have a security clearance anyway. You know, in my opinion.
I wouldn't think so either. Gee whiz, he voted for, I think, Gus Hall back in the either mid-76 or 80, I can't remember, but he voted for the communists.
Yeah.
And how you can go from voting for a communist and being head of the CIA, I have no idea.
Yeah.
It just baffles me that these people can... I know that they should get required polygraph tests every so often. I don't see how he passed it. Because he definitely has sympathy for the Communist Party. And if they're our enemy, how could you be have a security clearance if you're colluding with the enemy?
Well, here's my question, Dave. You go from being a communist to a Muslim, and then you hear him talking today, the way, and he's crying in his beer over losing his security clearance, and the Democrats are going on how that President Trump didn't have the right, the authority to do what he done, blah, 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 blah. John Brennan is a very unstable man. I think he's unstable.
And plus, he's a liar, too.
Oh, boy, yeah.
He lied before Congress more than once. Didn't he tap all the phones? Or no, what he did is he got into all the computers in the Judiciary Committee or one of the committees. He got in. He got the CIA into their computers, and how that happened, I don't know. But he never got in any trouble for it. Never got reprimanded or anything. No punishment.
Yeah, Penny forgot to take the phone off the hook. And, well, we ain't going to answer. That's not my 1-800 number. But anyway, Lester's busy right now. But, anyway, and they had Bruce Orr. Now, I've thought this for a long time, Dave, that as many criminals as there are involved in this Trump scandal right now, that there's bound to be a canary somewhere amongst all these criminals. And I believe with Bruce Orr, they just may have found their canary. His wife, she worked for Fusion. Was that Fusion 1?
Fusion GPS.
Yeah, Fusion GPS, which was, they was colluding with the Russians and selling their uranium and involved in Uranium 1 and all that. And they said that Bruce Orr, what he's telling them is in conflict with some of the testimony of Lisa Page.
Somebody's lying.
Yeah, and somebody else, I don't know if it was Strzok, might have been Strzok, that there's some of their stories didn't match, and how Bruce Orr was very cooperative. But they're not saying a whole lot about that testimony. He's supposed to, they're going to drag him out in the public here before long, probably. But now, hopefully, Dave, they found their canary, and he'll unravel all this. He had like 30 contacts with Steele. This secret agent man, where was he from? England?
Yeah, Great Britain.
Yeah, Great
MI6,
Britain.
I think.
Yeah, MI6. And, but then some of that was after they fired him, and so.
Well, Steele guy, he hated Donald Trump. He didn't want him to get elected. And what he wanted to do was have a conduit back to the FBI through Bruce Orr.
Right.
And the reason I think he wanted Bruce Orr is because of Nellie Orr. She worked for Fusion.
Yes.
So they all were interconnected. And that's how, see, he was involved in anti-terrorist or something like that, or it was spying or something, but he wasn't involved in or drug dealing or whatever. It was his expertise.
Yeah,
in the
I think
FBI.
It was
drug enforcement somehow.
Yeah.
But anyway, he wasn't an expert in what he was roped into doing. Was being a conduit between him and Steele and his wife.
Right.
And they wanted the FBI after they fired him, they still wanted to keep in contact with him because he went to the press, and because he went to the press and spilled the beans, they had to fire him because that was against the FBI rules. So after they fired him, he still maintained contact with James Comey through probably Nellie and her husband.
Yeah.
Nellie Orr and Bruce Orr.
Well, see, a lot of them are Rosenstein, Comey.
It's a complicated mess. It's so
it
complicated.
is. And they designed it this way to where you can never get to the end of it. And but hopefully that baby's about to blow.
It all leads to Obama, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no doubt
it went
in
from
my
the
mind.
top on down. And everything that Obama ordered...
him and Hillary.
Hillary was involved because the Chinese were reading her emails right as she was doing them.
Oh, yeah.
You heard that story, that in real time by the Chinese communists.
Yeah.
And nobody's talking about it. Have you heard one interview with Hillary about anybody in the news media asking her what happened with the communist Chinese had her emails in real time? That means as soon as she wrote one to Obama or anybody else, the Chinese were reading it.
Well, they had a code embedded into her server, Dave, and they got it real time. And to beat it all, this Chinese company was right there in Washington, D.C. It was right there. And now...
And James Comey lied because he knew all about that.
He knew all about it.
And he never did. In that July, was it July 2nd or July 1st, when he came before the nation, he said he wasn't going to indict Hillary.
Yeah.
He knew about that then.
Absolutely.
He knew about it. And that right in itself was a mind blower.
Yeah, right.
That shows her guilt right there.
Absolutely, yeah. And, it's just...
but nobody says a word.
And
mainstream media, and they don't care.
Yeah.
And they'll never say a word about that.
No, they're running block for them, Dave.
Sure they are.
Yeah. And we know for sure that at least one of the messages, was classified that the Chinese got their hands on.
It's probably dozens.
They was, man. And let's see here. It said, thanks to a message from FBI agent Peter Strzok, who was in charge of the mid-year investigation of Clinton's handling of classified information on her private server, this was all covered up. You remember Peter Strzok was he was the lead investigator on this Hillary Clinton and the emails, and they whitewashed the whole thing.
But the thing about it, Les, and this is a fact, it all goes back to Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and their Clinton Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
That is why Hillary Clinton wanted a private server from the get-go. She didn't want her private stuff on the government server because it could be had.
Right.
The Freedom of Information Act, people could request that and see it, and that's why she deleted it, and that's why even after she got the subpoena, it was deleted after she got the subpoena from the Congress. I remember when the New York Times broke that story, that she had all of her stuff on a private server, and she began news conferences with a series of lies, saying it wasn't true. And then she said, well, everybody else did, and I did too, but I didn't have anything classified that I recognize as classified. Yeah. Well, the fact is, everything that comes from anybody is classified on her server.
Right.
It's government business, and a lot of it was classified, and Barack Obama is a liar, and I'd tell him to his face if he was right here that he's a liar, because he knew when he sent emails to her that it wasn't a .gov address.
Right.
So he knew that she was on her own private server.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because he had to type that in order to send it to her. And we know that she received emails from Barack Obama.
Right.
So that's why that James Comey and none of them, it was decided from the get-go that they were never, ever going to lead to her going to jail for a prosecution for they were going to let him go because they had orders from on high from Barack Obama and everybody in the Justice Department, FBI, everywhere in the top of the echelons of the government, from the State Department all the way to FBI, CIA, James Brennan, everybody was involved in it.
Yeah.
Clapper was involved in it. Everybody knew about it.
Right.
And that's why
McCabe.
They don't want this stuff to come out, and that's why the mainstream media will never, ever let this... They don't think of nothing of it because they know it's true.
Right. And they're all for it because that's how they think.
Sure.
You know, they are part of the plan, Dave. They are willing accessories to criminal activity, which I call it all treason. I think it's all treason.
That's where the treason lies.
You know, and I think they should get the death penalty.
So what they did was their little plan came together when all of a sudden they knew that Hillary lost.
Yeah.
Whoa, what are we going to do? Well, what they did was they framed Donald Trump.
Exactly.
And that framing started from the night that she lost the election.
Right.
That's when they went into planning this little deal that they were going to blame the Russians for it,
Right.
and that's why she is not taking the blame. She said, why? She didn't come. Notice she never conceded when the night of the election.
Right.
She sent Podesta out in her behalf and said, well, we're still counting votes and this and that and that.
Yeah.
She knew she'd lost.
Absolutely.
If it'd been only one state, they would have probably tried to cheat it and got 20 or 30,000 votes to win the state.
Yeah.
But since it was multiple states, it was Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and what was it? Wisconsin was the other one.
Wisconsin.
They could not, and Florida. Well, naturally, Florida. They did. There's no way that they could have drummed up enough votes for her to have won.
Yeah. Well, and you know, all this was the backup plan. Mm-hmm. Okay, but they were so sure, and I think what happened was a lot of this was hatched that same night that they put the finishing touch on the plan when they found out that she did lose, Dave. They put the final touches on it, and Mueller's just as much part of it as any of them, Dave. You know that it was I forget the number, but Mueller, McCabe, Comey, Rosenstein, and there's a couple more that they signed these FISA warrants, and they knew. And see, and that's what I understand Trump's between a rock and a hard spot, but I believe President Trump knows that this is going to collapse under its own weight. But see, Mueller, he knew himself. All of them know, David, that this should have never taken place. Where is the judges, that signed off on these? Because they know that now that they was lied to, and they was hornswoggled, and they was duped into giving them these FISA warrants. Where's these judges at? Down their throats. When are they going to surface and call for their own investigation?
Probably never.
Yeah, probably never.
If they haven't done it by now, I don't think they will. I don't think this investigation is going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I think, especially if the Democrats win the House, you'll never hear of this again.
Right.
It'll be all swept under the rug.
Yeah.
You'll never hear anything about it.
Yeah. Well, we've got a question here from Temple, and it's a good question. And she says, why is Trump so persecuted more than any other president? Well, Temple, I think we have your answer, and it lies right here. And Dave, me and you was talking about this the other day, the backdoor deals that goes on with these companies that these politicians' families start, like Joe Biden's son.
It's all about the money.
It's all about a private equity firm managed by the son of former Vice President Joe Biden struck a deal with China's state-owned bank in 2013. At the same time that Joe Biden was in the country to meet with Chinese President,
Xi.
however you say that. Can you pronounce that?
It's Xi Jinping.
There you go, Xi Jinping.
My Chinese isn't that good.
Oh, yeah, but once you get started,
but
boy,
the
you're
XI is pronounced Xi.
Xi, yeah.
Xi Jinping.
Yeah. Hunter Biden, who arrived in China aboard Air Force Two. Now, see, what's he doing taking him unless there's a business deal going down? Okay. He already has equity in this one firm, and now he's on the jet, Air Force Two, going to China with his dad, and alongside Vice President, his father, and the rest of the U.S. delegation. And they're going over there. He's introducing them to these Chinese. Mm-hmm. They're all crawling into bed together. And that the Rosen Seneca Partners, LLC, was the name of his company. And is a private equity firm. And they would strike a deal with the Chinese. Now, and they, with the state-owned Bank of China, they created a $1 billion joint investment fund, Dave. Now, this is nothing new.
Oh, no.
Okay, Trump knows these people. President Trump used to buy these. President Trump said himself, somebody asked him, said, is politicians for sale? And there's a video of this somewhere, probably on YouTube. He said, of course they are, yeah. They said, well, how do you know this? He said, I bought them myself. He said, Hillary Clinton come to my wedding, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Didn't she? They never back then anticipated him ever running for president. And Hunter Biden controlled the Rosemont entities, which describes itself as a $2.4 billion private equity firm. And that went right on up, Dave. They was doing business in 2015, 2013. In 2013, the Rosemont entities linked a $1 billion deal with the Bank of China. The deal was eventually increased to $1.5 billion.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And this would have never happened, okay, if his dad wouldn't have been vice president. And this is dirty deals, Dave. This should never go on in our... This is why that they serve a lifetime in Congress. This is why, Dave, when they go in there and they're only worth maybe $400,000 or $500,000, then they come out, they're worth $400 or $500 million. It's because of this right here. Why do you think a politician, okay, spends $10 million, $20 million, $30 million, and some of it is their own money because there's no limit to what you can contribute to your own
a job
campaign.
That pays a couple $100,000?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah, no. But this is why. This is why they hate Donald Trump.
Well, not only that,
Feinstein's husband done the same thing.
You got Comey and Mueller, the tag team, twin brothers here. What they do is tag team. When one's in government, the other one's out of government, making big bucks. Like, I think Comey was making $38,000 when Mueller was the FBI, head of the FBI. And then when Comey became the head of the FBI, Mueller got out of government.
Yeah.
He made millions of dollars. And then they do that off of each other.
Right.
Because they work for these contractors that get government gigs, and they're who decides who gets what? It's whoever's the head of the department.
Right.
All they do is just recommend it to the president. He signs off on it, and the money it's spent.
Right.
And that's the way it was with the FBI. And Mueller and Comey, they're all crooked. And they're all after dollars. It even goes to Mitch McConnell.
Right.
Mitch McConnell's wife, her dad, has some kind of a business dealings with China. And nobody talks about that because it's on our side.
Yeah.
But the truth be known, Mitch McConnell's probably got his hand in the till. He's going to be making millions of dollars.
Well, sure, and their children, and they inside trade and everything, man. Their family. Here's how it works too, Dave. Okay, they start to cut this big deal with a company in Indonesia or a company in Pakistan or a company in China, anywhere. Okay, the government goes to cut this big deal with this particular company. All right, what's their family do? They go out and they start buying stocks into this company. Mm-hmm. They get the lowdown on that. Nancy, go in there on top of that freezer and take that phone off the hook. And but that's what they do, Dave. And their family will start companies down that line, like the solar companies. Look how many people made billions of dollars off Obama and still went bankrupt in the solar industry when Obama was president. It's a big, giant Ponzi scheme. It's a racket, Dave. And the Republicans are just as guilty, Dave. They're worth... You got congressmen and senators in there that's worth millions and millions. Feinstein and Pelosi, and there's so many of them on both sides of the aisle that's doing this very same thing. Chris Hines, okay, that's John Kerry's stepson. Okay, he married Patricia Hines, I think was her name. Whatever her name was, from the Heinz ketchup people. Okay. But
it was Teresa Hines.
Teresa Hines, yeah. Okay, her son, Chris Hines. Okay, he was involved in the Rosemont Capitol dealings too, the Rosemont Seneca. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just an example. And Temple, this is why they hate Donald Trump so bad, is because Donald Trump is going to tear this up. He's going to put a stop to as much of this as he can.
Donald Trump doesn't need the money. And see, when all these presidents come out of office, it's when they cash in.
Yeah.
Notice how Bill Clinton started his Clinton Foundation. He made upwards around $500 million, which is, by starting this foundation to help poor people and people like devastated by earthquakes and typhoons and all these different natural disasters. And what happened was that he made money off the deal.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why the people in Haiti can't stand Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Because they promised them a phone system and they never did get it because they took the money and ran.
They had a big telecommunication
telecom company.
Contracts and funneled millions and millions of government dollars into this, and it never did happen. And they stole the money from the Haitians. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to get on to this election down there in Florida here in a minute, but check this out. This article here is from March of this year. Last week, now this was talking back in March, last week, the Trump Organization donated $151,470 in profits earned from foreign government patronages at his hotels
in Washington
and other businesses. All of his businesses that foreigners patronized, all the profits is what that is. In 2017, he donated all the profits from these foreign entities to the U.S. Treasury, a move not required by the law. One more time, President Trump willingly donated of his profits from foreign entities patronizing his businesses, golf courses, resorts, motels, casinos, and all his business. he donated out of his own pocket, his profit, Dave, $151,470 to the U.S. Treasury. Never, ever, ever. And you'll probably never see it
so
again.
So much for the emoluments deal that the Democrats are trying to get him on.
Right.
So that blows that emoluments clause out of the Constitution. Well, the Constitution says the president is allowed to make money, but he can't make it at the expense of the United States.
Right.
But if it's a private business, he's allowed to keep that money.
That's right. That's his money.
It's his money.
Yeah.
But he donated it, so how can they have any qualms about that? The emoluments clause just doesn't exist with Donald Trump.
He donates.
He doesn't need the money.
He donates every one of his checks back to the Treasury of the United States. And, people, I tell you what, all this anger, I don't understand it because the man, he don't need this, Dave.
Nope.
His family don't need this. He never signed up for all this. He didn't want all this to come down on his family. I think that's where
Bob Mueller's going, though. He's going after Donald Trump's family, and that's why he turned it over to the Southern District of New York DA and the Manhattan DA and the Attorney General of New York. They're all after him to get his. I think what they want, they want to get him on his. They want to see his taxes.
Yeah.
They want to see his taxes as far back as they can get.
Yeah.
And that's the only way they figure they can get him is to go after his kids and to go after the company.
Right.
So that's what they want. They've always wanted his taxes.
Right. Well, they want to taint the whole family with something. They want to prosecute as many of the family members as they can. Okay, but they want to taint them at the very least so they'll never be elected again because they see right now the way this is going, Donald Jr. Is going to be elected president if he desires to run for president after President Trump does 2 terms, and he's got 3 sons. So that would be, hey, I tell you what, right on down, if I was alive, right on down, what's the youngest one's name? Right on down to him. I'd vote for him if I was still alive, if he walked in his daddy's shoes and done for the American people, what his dad did. They've got my vote.
Barron Trump is the youngest. Barron.
Yeah, Barron, that's it. Who's this from, man? Okay, here's another one from Temple. Why were the donations from Trump not made public with the liberal media? Well, it's Temple. It's because the media don't want nobody to know this. They hide this kind of stuff. President Trump don't. Every once in a while, one of his staff will come out, or somebody knows him will come out and say Trump did this, Trump did that, out of the goodness of his heart. President Trump will never tell what he does personally for people or donations like this. Do you know, Dave, President Trump was sitting watching TV one time, and he seen this little, I think it's a girl, I'm not sure, seen this little girl on one of these talk shows that had a very, very rare disease, and they couldn't afford treatment. They had to make a trip somewhere for some kind of treatment, and so this talk show got a hold of them, and they was talking about the disease. President Trump got a hold of that family, flew that kid on his own private jet, paid for the treatment that kid, life-saving treatment that kid made. Somebody else had to tell that. Trump never breathed a word of that. And he's done that time after time after time. A black woman living in Trump Towers there in New York was homeless. He gave her a room, and she's been living there for free. He told his people, he said, you make sure she has 3 meals a day. And as far as I know, she's still there. And I think he eventually employed her. And, he does stuff like this. He is a humanitarian plus, Dave, And and he don't deserve this, brother. But I tell you, he has got to be one heck of a man to carry this on his shoulders.
He said that he loved the country so much he's willing to take it. And if I'll tell you what,
I believe it,
this
brother.
is the truth. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in politics that could take the day in and day out bombing that he's been taking from the news media. I mean, they attack him every single day, morning, noon, and night, 24/7. They never stop, and they never. The man never does anything good, or there's never any good news.
Right.
Like 94% of the time that they report on Donald Trump, it's always bad news.
It's a lie.
It's always bad news, or they twist it and contort it to make it sound bad when it's actually not bad.
Right, yeah. Folks, 1-800-508-5431 is our toll-free number. Call in and talk to us and say, hey, Temple, thank you for your questions, and hey, we'll do the best we can to answer them. But you know, this man don't deserve this, David, and I tell you what, that's just like this Mexican deal, and that he just pulled off, yesterday, the day before, and he said he didn't want to call it NAFTA, but he cut a deal that's a preliminary deal right now with Mexico, and he told them there was 2 Mexican representatives right there. And at the end of this meeting, they presented him with 2 soccer jerseys, and one of them gave him a folder from a referee that had a green, red card and a yellow card.
Different colored cards.
But one of them said something about the wall. I guess they thought he would back down because he was in front of these Mexican representatives. He said Mexico's going to pay for the wall. And, you know, the man has got... he's got the hide of a crocodile, brother, you know. And but he cut this preliminary deal. He said, we're going to call it the United States-Mexico Trade Agreement. The NAFTA, you know, and you remember Ross Perot? NAFTA, that big giant sucking sound. Yeah. You hear that big giant sucking sound? That's what.
That's a good impersonation. I mean, that sounds really.
You like that?
I remember discussing that very topic in 1992, in the summer of 1992, with a couple of buddies of mine. We were at the Waffle House, and he said, "I'm going to vote for Ross Perot." And I said, "You know what happens when you vote for Ross Perot? You just elected Bill Clinton."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Ross Perot got like 18 or 19% of the vote. That's what knocked George H.W. Bush out of
Right.
That's what knocked him out.
Well, he lied anyway about read my lips. Remember that? You know?
Yeah, you lie, you die.
So but now listen to this. This is the new deal, the preliminary deal with Mexico. And, you know, they manufacture a lot of car parts. GM's over there big time. And in auto manufacturing, the deal would require that 75% of the parts in any car sold in North America be produced in the United States or Mexico. Currently, it's about 62% of parts share required to be produced in the United States or Mexico or Canada right now. But now Canada is not part of this deal right now. This was just right now strictly for Mexico. And it's brilliant, Dave, the way he's doing this, because he's singling them out and he's dealing with them one-on-one instead of a group. See, NAFTA was a big old cluster, you know, and they were just batting stuff, everybody just signing everything. Chaos. It was chaos, is what that was. And America lost her shirt. Because right after that, what happened? Our steel mills started closing. And we went to Niagara Falls 3 or 4 years ago. And you go along the Niagara River, and on the right-hand side, Dave, you see all these Ford plants, all these steel mills. The wind is knocked out of them. They're closed. It's like and it's, I don't know how many miles of factories there along that river. And it looked like a ghost town over there. There's a Ford plant there, and maybe, I don't know, a couple dozen cars in the parking lot. I don't know, the janitors or who it was. But them places is coming back, Dave, because of these deals right here. Higher labor standards. The new deal would require that 40 to 45% of car parts in America, 40 to 45% of car parts in cars sold be made by workers earning $16 an hour. At least $16 an hour. Okay, now we know that's going to make the price of cars go up, and but you know, hey, new cars is expensive any way you slice it. And there's a sunset clause. This agreement will last for 16 years, but it'll be reviewed every 6 years. Now, I think President Trump tried to get that knocked down, but it didn't come out in the negotiation the way exactly that particular part. But he got everything else he wanted, Dave. And not only that, Monday morning the Dow closed nearly 260 points higher on Monday. Mm-hmm. So, see, all this stuff, it goes in hand. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And I can't figure for the life of me, David, as old as these politicians are, as long as they've been in the business, the willful neglect of America. And we got 1 minute left, Dave. And but you know, the willful neglect of America from these lifer politicians, you know. But you know, we got about 45 seconds. I want to thank everybody on Facebook. I want to thank everybody out there in Radio Land, Dave. We didn't get to everything as usual, but we'll get to it next week, maybe.
You know, last week we said something about Dan Quayle. You know, he said it's a terrible thing to lose your mind, United Negro College Fund. But this time we got Al Sharpton, and he says, show a little respect, and he spells it RESPICT.
Yeah. How you going to Judy chop that? Yeah.
Well, you know, Aretha Franklin's being buried on Friday, so yeah. I think that's why he said that. But
messed it up, didn't he?
A little bit. He changed the E to an I.
Yeah. Hey, God bless y'all. Tune in next week, Wednesday, unscheduled 7 p.m. Thank you, Jimmy. God bless y'all. We're out of here. Politicians say more taxes will solve everything. And the band